Hey guys, Mr. T here. This is another video. This one is on midpoints again, but you'll notice in some of the later questions it uses the midpoint formula a little differently, where you're finding the end of the line segment if you're told where the midpoint is. So we've already gone over the fact you can find the midpoint of a line segment as long as you know the coordinates of the endpoints. Using the formula below, if the 2 points A and B have coordinates A, x1, y1, and B, x2, y2, the midpoint between A and B is going to be the x coordinate of the first point, x coordinate of the second point added together, divided by 2. And that's going to be the x coordinate of the middle point, the midpoint. And then the y coordinate of the midpoint is going to be the y coordinate of point 1 plus the y coordinate of point 2 divided by 2, and that will be the y coordinate of the midpoint. So it tells you the coordinates of the midpoint straight up. Now, using the same formula, so this again, and some algebra this time, you can actually find the end of a line segment as long as you know the first point on the line and where the midpoint is. So basically you're doing a slightly opposite thing. You know where the middle is, you want to find where the other end of the line is. So what you're really doing is something like what this formula is doing now is you know the ends of the line segment and you're finding where the middle is. What we're doing now is you know one end of the line, you know where the middle is, and you're trying to work out where is the end point. Okay? So, here's an example of this. If you know that m1, negative 3, is the midpoint between p, 3, 1, and q, which we don't know. What are the coordinates of q? So we don't know where the ends are. So if I drew a quick diagram of this, this is p. It's 3, 1. We know m is the middle, and m is at 1, negative 3, and q we don't know. We don't know the x, we don't know the y. We can use the same formula and some algebra to find this out, because you used that formula to work out what this is. Okay. So why would we do this? Because what if the points were like 1,000 or something? It would be too difficult for you to draw this out. So to save you time, to give you a shortcut, you use this technique to solve questions like this. So if we plug the numbers that we know into the formula, p is where we start, so that is x1 and y1. We know what x1 and y1 are. And q, we don't know what they are, so we're going to call the coordinates of q x2 and y2. So we're going to use a formula that is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. This is the coordinates of the midpoint. So for this question, we know where x1 is. It's p. So x1 is 3 plus, we don't know this time where x2 is, so we just leave it as x2. We don't know the x coordinate of q, that's what we're trying to find out. But we do know adding together divided by 2 is how we get the midpoint. y1 we know is 1. It's here. We know where the line starts, so it is 1 plus, we don't know the y coordinate of q. That's what we're trying to find out, so leave it as y2. Alright, so we have this algebra here that's part of the way through, and why can we use algebra? Because we know the x coordinate, we know this leads to the midpoint, which is 1, negative 3. We know they equal each other. So if we grab this side and drew it properly as a problem, we have 3 plus x2, which we don't know, divided by 2 is equal to 1. Because we know from m, we know where the midpoint is, that the x coordinate is going to be 1. So now we have this algebra here. What's the opposite of dividing by 2? timesing by 2. So if we times both sides by 2, it's going to cancel out the divide by 2, but I have to times by 2 on the right-hand side as well. So 1 times by 2 is going to be 2. So I'm just going to draw in a brick what I actually did there. Times by 2, times by 2. I had to do it on both sides to balance it out. And then what is the opposite of positive 3? Well, the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3, so I want to get rid of the positive 3 there by taking 3 plus x2 is equal to 2, and then to keep it balanced I have to take 3 on the other side as well. So 3 take 3 is 0, so all that's left on the left side is x2, and 2 take 3 is negative 1. So we know that x coordinate of q is negative 1 right now. If I grab this side to get the y coordinate, we know 1 plus y2 divided by 2 is equal to negative 3. Why do we know it's negative 3? Because we know the coordinates of the midpoint. So what is the opposite of dividing by 2? Timesing by 2. So I need to times both sides by 2. Timesing something that's been divided by 2 just cancels it out. So 1 plus y2 equals, what's negative 3 times by 2? Negative 6. What's the opposite of positive 1? Negative 1. And I have to do the same thing on both sides to balance it. 1 take 1 is 0, so all that's left on the left side is y2. Negative 6 take 1 is negative 7. So that tells us, now that we've used some algebra, q must be negative 1 from here, comma, negative 7. Alright, so hopefully that helps you out with those later questions in the previous exercise. Finding the end point when you know the first point and the midpoint. And I'll see you on the next video.